Okay, so open your mind's eye and picture yourself watching fucking cartoons back in 2006 on your TV. Quality kids television? Okay, that's enough of that shit. That's when you see a new ad for a store. The story starts in November 2001 with the opening of the Pokemon Center in New York City. This was the third Pokemon Center in the world, and the first international one, and no expense was spared, with an unmissable location at 10 Rockefeller Plaza. This is the same building as Radio City Music Hall, and where they record the Today Show. The 1930s building had been a brewery before being updated into a mix of Art Deco and early 2000s postmodernism. An example of this would be the brass Pokeball door handles contrasting with the vibrant pastel green columns, with Pokemon hanging off like gargoyles. Pokemon Center New York was the place to go to get exclusive plush, figures, and promo cards. There was even an exclusive gold and Game Boy Advance sold there. Another exclusive to the store was the infamous GameCube game Pokemon Box Ruby and Sapphire. This has become one of the rarest GameCube games in recent times. The store was full of massive displays to impress both children and the adults that were dragged in the store. Due to their strict no photography rule, most of Pokemon Center New York is lost media, which is crazy because imagine having to be the broke college kid policing some 6-year-old from taking a picture with Charizard. The things we do know about the Pokemon Center New York store is because of the website PokemonCenterNewYork.com, run by MuseMe700 and 2LoveL. It has the most information and photos of the Pokemon Center New York store. I highly suggest supporting them by visiting the website. When guests entered the Pokemon Center New York store, they were greeted with life-size animatronics of the mascot Pokemon of this location, Pikachu, Charizard, and Pichu, as well as life-size statues of Scizor, Togepi, Snubbull, Wobbuffet, Vulpix, Larvitar, and a trio of Digletts that would pop up and down. The main feature of this first floor of the store was a giant Pokemon mobile that spun around the store with Gen 1 and Gen 2 Pokemon hanging from it. There's also a giant console that lets you play the latest Pokemon game on a massive screen. The store had the Ultra Pokedex on the first floor, a one-of-a-kind hub for all 251 Pokemon at the time. The second floor had a massive area dedicated to the trading card game, with an exhibit showing every holographic and rare Pokemon card at the time. Also on the second floor was the Gotta Catch 'em All machine, which was a massive machine where people could get exclusive Pokemon by inserting their personal game cartridges. These Pokemon were either shiny or exclusive to New York Pokemon Center events. Over on the other side of the second floor was the Pokemon Trainer Gym, which was a setup of 4 TVs connected to Nintendo 64s and GameCubes playing Pokemon games to demo and practice on. The main exhibit of the second floor was a giant Pokeball hanging from the ceiling, which would open up and have a light show and shoot out fog at the top of every hour. Sadly, as Pokemania of the early 2000s died, so did the Pokemon Center New York City flagship store, with it closing its doors on January 19th, 2005, promising to reopen in the spring of 2005 to remodel the store. In that spring of 2005, it was announced that Nintendo would be taking over the 15-year lease for Pokemon, due to the declining popularity, which sounds insane nowadays, with it being impossible to find even a pack of cards at Target. Nintendo of America's Director of Trade Shows, Susanna Scallon, said this about the change from Pokemon to Nintendo. The decision to change the store stemmed from Pokemon and Nintendo's effort to continually evolve and nurture interest in video games and gaming platforms and systems, including Pokemon games and trading cards. According to former Pokemon Center employees, though, a different story emerges. Pokemon USA was apparently very relaxed with its approach to the store, and Nintendo was incredibly upset about it, with employees reported to be stealing merchandise in bulk and reselling them, which sounds almost too familiar to the scalpers of today. According to rumors, the store had such a bad theft problem from employees that it was struggling to even keep stock of the merchandise it had. All of these allegations are just allegations and rumors from former Pokemon Center employees, so none of this has any legal basis or whatever fucking hoopla. Nintendo needs to not sue me. 10 Rockefeller Plaza was closed for 4 months for refurbishments to retheme the Pokemon Center to become Nintendo World, the first flagship store for the company, opening on May 14th, 2005. The design of Nintendo World fits right in with the modern term Frutiger. If you don't know what Frutiger is, it was a design style from the mid-2000s to the early 2010s, named after Adrian Frutiger, a Swiss designer who created the Frutiger font, which is often associated with the aesthetic. Frutiger usually depicts a very optimistic view of technology, specifically with bright colors or interacting with nature in some way. Think of like those iPod commercials from the early 2000s, or like the Wii aesthetic.
We would like to play.
The Art Deco style that was so important to the Pokemon Center is nowhere to be seen in Nintendo World, replacing it as a bright vision of what people in 2005 thought the future would look like, with its shiny whites and blue neon to accent it. The exterior of the store at opening gave a much more modern look, with the only remnants of that old Pokemon Center look being the brass door handles. To celebrate the opening of the store, Nintendo World hosted a block party with Shigeru Miyamoto making an appearance to meet fans and send 30 limited edition Triforce Game Boy Advance SP consoles, which were available to purchase for the low price of $400. Also on opening day, Nintendo decided to host a tournament for Donkey Konga 2. The sequel to Donkey Konga 1. You know, the one where you hit the bongos. What a game to advertise at the opening of your flagship store. They must have been really excited to show off that Losing My Religion cover by REM. Bongo style. There were also appearances from mascot characters like Mario and Pikachu. And Mario ain't looking so hot. To be honest, he looks like Dookie Doo-Doo dog shit. He looks like Dookie Poo-Poo Doo-Doo. To join funky-looking Mario were celebrities of the time, such as President of Nintendo of America at the time, Tatsumi Kimishima. Hey, we got Bobby from the fucking Sopranos here. Danny Masterson, the unproblematic king. Comedian Gilbert Godfrey. Who is that? I can't see who that is. Is that the older brother from Malcolm in the Middle? No, that's Danny Masterson. The store's opening was a massive success. Journalists and critics complimented its numerous exhibits and futuristic design. When Nintendo World opened, it seemed to be separated with Nintendo's handheld consoles and series on the first floor, reserving home consoles for the second floor. The first thing guests would notice when they walked in was the Nintendo DS Circle, which was 2 circles, one larger than the other, with 8 Nintendo DS consoles loaded with demos and many other games to try, single player or multiplayer. To the right was the Game Boy bar. It was a bar lined with stools and Game Boy Advance SPs with a list of 20 to 30 games to order and try out. And in the back right corner was the multiplayer wall. The multiplayer wall was a place to play multiplayer games for both Nintendo DS and Game Boy Advance. The demo stations were set up with Nintendo DS consoles and Game Boy Advance systems with large screens to be able to see your 16-bit games in full 480p quality. In the left corner of the store was the Pokemon Center, now scaled down to about 1/10 of its size. The only display that remained was the Pikachu on the log statue, which stood right between the Pokemon trading figure game and the Pokemon VHSs. Between the Pokemon Center and the multiplayer wall was where you had the cash wrap, stocked with keychains, pins, and those tins of shitty candies. Hey, this one's shaped like a Wii remote, so can't be too bad. Now, up the stairs, or the massive glass elevator, lied a History of Nintendo museum, showcasing some important pieces of Nintendo's history, at least history up to 2005. In the cases, there was a deck of Hanafuda cards from when Nintendo used to make those in the 1800s. Displayed also was the Nintendo AVS system, which was a prototype for the American markets and shown only once in 1984. The console was a massive flop when they showed it off, but to be fair, it was around the time of the game crash of '83, so like, no one gave a shit about home video game consoles at the time. The system was ahead of its time with wireless controllers, a light gun, a joystick, and a keyboard to make it the all-in-one system at the time for computers, gaming, and education. If you look closely at the controllers, you can see they look pretty similar to the NES's controllers, which would come out a year later. But they have these awful square-looking buttons that look so uncomfortable. Imagine playing Mario Brothers and getting that corner stuck in your fucking finger. One of the most famous items displayed in Nintendo World was the Gulf War Game Boy. The Gulf War Game Boy was a Game Boy console that had been blown up during the Gulf War and was sent back to Nintendo asking for a new one. To the shock and surprise of everyone, the console still functioned. Nintendo sent the soldier a replacement console and featured the blown up one in Nintendo Power issue 26, for the console would find its home at the Nintendo World Store, where you can still find it today. Next to all this history was a collection of every Game Boy Advance console variant, along with one of the 30 Miyamoto-signed Zelda Triforce consoles. The second floor is where a majority of the merchandise was at, from I Mario New York t-shirts to a plush of any Nintendo character you could ever want. They even had the chain jump soccer ball used in Super Mario Strikers. A massive round display of TVs showing the newest Nintendo releases was next to the elevator, where the Gotta Catch 'Em All machine stood only months prior. A showcase of demos for GameCube games covered the entire second floor of Nintendo World, and behind the stairs where the Pokemon Trainer Gym had once been was now a row of futuristic-looking egg chairs, with a GameCube loaded with demos in front of each one. Nintendo World actually won an award in its opening year for Store of the Year from the Institute of Store Planners International Store Design Competition. The displays of Nintendo World are cool and all, but this is first and foremost a store. And what made people want to visit this store to buy games over their local Best Buy? Nintendo World was full of exclusive merch that could not be found anywhere else in the States, such as designer Nintendo DS consoles. Nintendo World has so many exclusive DS consoles that I can make a top 10 list out of them. Crystal statues with laser-etched Mario, Peach, and Link were also available for $400. Statues that came with a credit card of authenticity to prove how fancy you were. Along with these expensive collector's items were more cost-effective ones, like keychains, figurines, and t-shirts. Over at the Pokemon Center, there was a collection of exclusive plush, figures, and even more promo cards. Another reason to visit the Nintendo New York store are the events that seemingly happen weekly. Only 4 months after opening, the store hosted its first of many massive game launches, with Nintendogs, which coincidentally landed around the 20th anniversary for Super Mario. Miyamoto and Reggie Fils-Aimé both attended this event, which attracted a crowd of over 1,500 people. Only the first 200 were able to meet Miyamoto, but the rest of the crowd received a drawing of Miyamoto's personal Jack Russell Terrier Nintendog, and Mario, with Mario sleeping in a doghouse. Guests who entered Bark mode in their Nintendogs game were actually able to meet Miyamoto's Jack Russell Terrier in-game, and unlock the breed, which is the rarest in the game. Nintendo DS skins with Miyamoto's signature were also given out to guests. The shelf of just dog plushies? How the fuck did Nintendo get away with just selling dog plushies? What the hell is this shit, bro? Almost every first-party Nintendo game was given a launch party. Mascot characters usually showed up, and demo stations for the game were around the store. There were also activities and games targeted towards children visiting. For the 20th anniversary of Nintendo Power, the store hosted an event with a chief editor and many writers showing up to meet fans. This event is also the first time I've ever seen this ugly ass Link costume. Who the fuck is that? Also, who the hell invited the king from My Sims Kingdom? Get that bitch out! He was not invited! Celebrities also showed up to join in the festivities. Most importantly, Cory from Cory in the House, promoting the hit Nintendo DS game, Cory in the House, that Cory from Cory in the House also stars in as Cory from Cory in the House. Nintendo World was also the place to watch the Nintendo E3 presentation every year, starting all the way back in 2006.
Yeah! What the hell?
They actually made a surprise event engraving for all the 2006 attendees to get an exclusive design that says E3 2006 Nintendo World. Over time, many of the displays needed to be upgraded or changed, which started in 2006 with the release of the Nintendo Wii, which took over all the GameCube demo units and also caused the loss of the massive egg chairs on the second floor, because, you need to stand up to use your motion controls. The multiplayer wall on the first floor was also taken out and replaced with 4 demo stations. The Game Boy bar became the Nintendo DS bar, but the biggest change was to the History of Nintendo display, which got a massive upgrade, moving it from directly when you walk in to over on the right, giving it triple the space it used to have. A new circular glass display replaced the old cubed one and moved to the right side of the stairs where the 3 TV setup used to be. The display would change depending on the games that were releasing or events happening at the time. The display was originally put in for the 25th anniversary of Mario event, which had Miyamoto and Reggie return to the store and celebrate with a 4-tier Mario cake. The first console launch that was held at the store was actually the Wii U, even though 2 other major consoles had been released between the opening of the flagship store and the release of the Wii U. The Nintendo Wii was launched at the Toys R Us flagship store, which I can't say shit about. That place had a Ferris wheel inside of it. The 3DS's launch was held at the Best Buy flagship store, also in New York, 8 minutes away from Nintendo World. As time passed, statues began to appear at the Nintendo store, starting with the Donkey Kong statue in 2011, next to the stairs when you walk in the store. For the release of Pikmin 3, a Pikmin statue was placed on the second floor, with 3 Pikmin crossing a lock. And the most recognizable, the Mario Amiibo statue, which stood atop a display of every amiibo available at the time, which has been updated as more have come out. After more than a decade of being open, a lot of the displays were starting to show their age. The DS bar had been gone for a while and replaced by a few 3DS stations. The DS Circle became the 3DS Circle, and all the Wii stuff was replaced with the Wii U. Somehow in this time, the Pokemon Center moved its way upstairs, and in its place was 3DS accessories and plush towers. In late 2015, Nintendo made the decision to remodel the store and close it on January 19th, 2016, reopening 1 month later on February 19th, 2016, with a new name for the store: Nintendo New York. The The name Nintendo World was too similar to the recently announced Super Nintendo World theme park, and the decision was made to change its name to Nintendo New York to coincide with the other Nintendo stores that were planned, such as Nintendo Osaka, Nintendo Tokyo, Nintendo Kyoto, the recently opened Nintendo San Francisco, and the odd one out, Nintendo Israel, which, I mean, sure, I guess. When the store reopened, a grand reopening event was held with Doug Bowser and Charles Martinet, the voice of Mario, to do a ribbon cutting. The ribbon is still on display at the Nintendo New York store. New displays were added, like a golden Mario statue looking to greet guests and passerbys. At the top of the stairs was a flagpole with Mario at the top and several other characters sitting on the bottom. On the second floor, a group of warp pipes with piranha plants popping out also were there. A Link statue showed up using his Twilight Princess design, and the Donkey Kong statue was replaced with Bowser. The biggest addition to the new Nintendo New York store was a massive 15-foot 4K TV that played demos of Wii U games and also became the new spot to host E3 and Nintendo Direct presentations. Nintendo New York also hosted an event for the reveal of Mario's boots, where you could go see Mario's boots from the new Super Mario Bros. Movie. The shoes were even delivered by the Super Mario Bros. Plumbing van seen in the movie. Nintendo New York was a place to go for game launches. Just about every first-party game got a launch party. Super Mario Odyssey had statues from the E3 2017 setup and a live dance show from the residents of the fictional New Donk City. Yoshi's Woolly World had a fabric recreation of the first level and games for kids to earn a Yoshi keychain. For Star Fox Zero, the puppets for Fox, Peppy, Falco, and Miyamoto from the E3 2015 Direct next to a Star Fox R-Wing, which was set up to where you would sit in it and demo the game on the 15-foot display. Nintendo New York also had exclusive collector's editions that were only available in New York, like the Mario Kart 8 Collector's Edition, which came with a blue shell statue, or the Hyrule Warriors Collector's Edition, which came with the scarf worn by Link in the game. Tournaments were also hosted at the Nintendo New York store for Nintendo games, usually around the launch of a game. From Smash Bros. To Mario Kart to Pokken Tournament, Nintendo New York even hosted a tournament for the game Runbow. Nintendo New York was the place to go to show off your skills against tryhards and 8-year-old children. One of the largest events that happened in the store was the launch of the Nintendo Switch. A huge celebration was held with a 5-foot-tall console made with a countdown to release. Appearances by Doug Bowser and one of the largest crowds ever for a launch. Alex from the channel C&D has an incredible series documenting the launch of the Nintendo Switch and being the first person to purchase one. He waited outside for 30 days and made a video for each day out there, documenting not only the launch, but the Nintendo New York community. After the launch of the Switch, all the Wii U and 3DS stations were gradually replaced. In March 2020, the store closed down for COVID until August of the same year, when the store reopened with all the safety precautions. Over the past 2 decades of Nintendo World, or Nintendo New York now, the store has become an icon of New York City, with it being more than 20 years old. For the 20th anniversary, a new display was added showcasing the history of both Nintendo World and Nintendo New York. Nintendo New York has such a standout history compared to the other Nintendo stores, from it being a failed Pokemon Center to the Fruity Guerrero Nintendo World, and now its bright reds and 15-foot display at Nintendo New York. Visiting the store today, you'll still see all the charming decor and excitement of guests still there after 20 years. And with Nintendo renewing its 15-year lease in 2020, I don't imagine the store to be closing anytime soon. Hey, thanks for watching that video. I don't really expect anybody to actually make it this far, but I appreciate it. I know this video the topic is kind of dumb as shit, but like, fuck it.